All right, welcome. Today we're going to try and unlock the whole process behind artificial intelligence. We'll follow the journey of a machine learning model, from just a simple idea all the way to a tool that makes some really powerful predictions. And we'll be using Amazon SageMaker as our guide for this whole thing.
It kind of feels like magic, right? You ask a question and boom, an AI just delivers an answer. But behind that curtain, there's a really structured and, honestly, a fascinating process. So today, we're pulling that curtain back to map out the entire journey, from start to finish.
So our guide for this journey is going to be Amazon SageMaker. Think of it like a complete workshop. It's filled with every single tool you could possibly need to build, train, and launch a high-quality machine learning model, the whole shebang, from start to finish.
Now, building an AI, well, it's not exactly a walk in the park. It's a lot more like climbing a mountain. It requires a plan, you need the right gear, and you absolutely need a clear map of the terrain. So let's start by taking a look at that map.
Okay, so this is our map. And the key thing to notice here isn't just the individual steps, but look at the arrows. This is not a straight line from A to B. It's a continuous cycle, always looping back on itself to refine and improve the model based on new data and what we learn.
I know, that map can look a little intimidating, right? But a tool like SageMaker is designed to create a clear path through all that complexity. So let's break down the very first steps of the journey. We can actually boil down that big, loopy diagram into 5 core stages. First, you have to frame the problem. Then comes the incredibly important step, prepare the data. After that, you train the model, you evaluate it, and finally, you deploy and monitor it. We're going to follow this path for the rest of our explainer.
Think about it like this. Every great meal needs high-quality ingredients. For AI, those ingredients are data features, which are basically just the individual, measurable properties in your data. A tool like the SageMaker Feature Store is absolutely critical here. It helps you manage and share all these features, making sure they're clean, consistent, and ready for your model.
All right, our ingredients are prepped. Now it's time for the main event, building the engine of our AI. This is the part where the actual learning and creation really happens. Okay, let's pull up our map again. We are right here, smack dab in the heart of the workflow, model training. This is where we feed all that data we prepared to an algorithm and just let it learn the patterns.
And here's the really cool part. SageMaker has a tool for pretty much every skill level. So, a business analyst can use something called Canvas. It's a point-and-click interface to generate predictions without writing any code. A developer on a tight deadline can use Jumpstart to quickly deploy a pre-built proven model, and a data scientist can dive super deep, building a model totally from scratch.
So here's the thing. Not all AI models learn in the same way. A really crucial part of the building process is choosing the right kind of brain or learning style for the problem you're trying to solve.
The 2 main types you'll hear about are supervised and unsupervised learning. Think of supervised learning like a student who's studying with an answer key. You give it data that's already labeled with the correct answers. Unsupervised learning, on the other hand, is more like a detective dropped at a crime scene. It's given a ton of unlabeled data, and it has to find the hidden patterns and structures all by itself. And the thing is, for both of these approaches, SageMaker offers a whole library of algorithms. So whether your student needs to learn how to classify images or your detective needs to find patterns in customer reviews, there's a purpose-built tool ready to go.
So we've built our model, but how do we know if it's any good? I mean, really. That brings us to the next critical phase, evaluation. We've got to test our creation to see if it can consistently hit the bullseye.
All right, you guessed it. Back to our map one more time. We are at this crucial checkpoint, model evaluation. This is the moment of truth. We have to ask, does this model actually solve the business problem we started with? Is it accurate? Is it reliable?
To really answer those questions, we got to get our heads around 2 super important concepts, bias and variance. Bias, to put it simply, is about accuracy. How close are your predictions to the real answer? Variance is all about precision. How consistent are those predictions? Are they all over the place, or are they tightly clustered together?
You know what? This dartboard analogy makes it so clear. You're not just aiming for accuracy. That's getting your shots around the center. That's low bias. You also need precision, or low variance, to get them all tightly clustered on the bullseye. The sweet spot, the goal for any model, is that target in the top left, low bias and low variance.
Okay, so what does that look like when we're talking about actual data? High variance, on the left, leads to something called overfitting, The model is way too complex and it starts learning the noise in the data, not just the signal. High bias, there in the middle, leads to underfitting. The model is too simple, and it just misses the underlying trend completely. The goal is that sweet spot on the right, a perfectly balanced model.
So how do we actually measure success? Well, we use specific mathematical metrics. For a classification problem like, is this a cat or a dog, we might use accuracy, which is simply what percentage of the time did the model get it right. For a regression problem like predicting a house price, we might use mean squared error, which measures on average how far off the model's prediction was from the actual price.
Now, finding that perfect balance of bias and variance often means testing thousands of tiny variations of a model. Can you imagine trying to do that by hand? It would be impossible. That's why SageMaker automates this process, running countless experiments to find the absolute best performing version of your model for you.
And with that, we've reached the summit. We've mapped out the journey, we've prepped our gear, we've built our engine, and we've tested it for success. Now we can finally enjoy the view from the top.
So what's the real payoff of a platform like this? Well, it all comes down to two things: speed and accessibility. As this shows, what used to be a super complex process that took hours or even days can be accelerated down to just minutes. It standardizes everything and makes the power of machine learning accessible to way more people than just a handful of experts.
Yeah, this quote really just hits the nail on the head. Managing the entire workflow, all the way from collecting data to the final deployment, all in one integrated environment, that's what truly speeds up innovation.
So, we've taken the journey from a simple question to a fully realized AI model. The process isn't magic anymore, it's a map that you can actually follow. Which leaves just one final question for you. Now that you know the path, what problem will you solve first?